This Saturday is UFC 316, Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley 2 for the bantamweight title. The rematch we've all been dying to see. Shout out to the UFC for putting on the fights we desperately want to see. Can't wait for O'Malley to get an immediate rematch for the title. But overall, this pay-per-view, it shouldn't really be a pay-per-view. It's very mid. But for a fight night card, it's actually a decent fight night card. We have some quality matchups. We have Julianna Peña versus Kayla Harrison. We have Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. We have Bautista versus Patchy mix, which is a really, really solid fight. And then also we have Vicente Luque versus Dana White privileged Kevin Holland, who's on the main card again, even though he's a complete scrub, but that's besides the point. This is going to be my full card predictions for UFC 316. I'll be live Saturday for the majority of the card if you care to check it out as well and react to the fights with me live. And yeah, I think that's it. Let's jump right into it. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. Starting off with the first fight of the night. And actually, I think the bout order is wrong on the UFC's website. But it's going to be close to the bout order. But we have Quinlan Salkilld versus Yanal Ashmouz. Look, I'm going Quinlan Salkilld. I think he's better than Yanal Ashmouz everywhere. Maybe Ashmouz has a little bit more power, but Quinlan Salkilld looked really solid in his UFC debut. One punch KO'd Anshu Jubilee, which I know isn't the greatest win. You know, shout out Mike Breeden, I believe it was, who was barking at him and walking him down. But Salkilld, you know, he's 8-1. He showed a decent skill set over the course of his career. Has decent grappling, decent striking. He's gritty. He can go to war. He had a really, gritty fight against Gage Young on Dana White's Contender Series. And I just think he's the better striker than Yanal Ashmouz. Ashmouz, he's not going to mix in the grappling. His striking isn't great. He has decent power. He does have that KO win over Sam Patterson, which has aged quite well. But since then, he lost to Chris Duncan. I know he got injured. He was getting outstruck by Chris Duncan. Then since then, he got a win over Trevor Peek, which is actually a decent win. I think I even picked him to win that fight. I think Salkilld is a guy who's coming off of Dana White's Contender Series. A lot of these guys coming off Dana White's Contender Series are straight up scrubs. I think he's actually a decent fighter. I think he has decent hands, decent power, decent grappling. He's a decent, well-rounded fighter. And Ashmouz kind of doesn't really throw a whole lot of combinations. He has decent leg kicks. He has decent power shots. But he's not putting it all together. He doesn't really have a takedown threat. And I'm just looking at this matchup. I'm looking at a massive height advantage, a 3-inch height advantage for Salkilld, a 7-inch reach advantage. And I just think he's more skilled everywhere. I think Ashmouz is going to have to clip him and KO him if he wants to win. And I just think Salkild's better. So I think Salkilld is going to touch him up on the feet, outstrike him, maybe find a finish. But I'm going to pick Salkilld to get it done via decision. Ashmouz is very tough. I think it was in the Chris Duncan fight. I think he broke an arm or severely injured an arm. I might be mistaken. I can't remember what happened, but there was a decently serious injury, and he was still able to make it all the way to decision against Chris Duncan, who's a quality fighter. So I'm going to go Quinlan Salkilld via decision. I think he gets it done over Yanal Ashmouz. I think it'll probably be like a 29-28 or a 30-27 decision win for Salkilld. But I could see him getting like a TKO in the second or third round. Next fight on the card, we have Jeka Saragih versus Yu Sang Yo. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Or Jo Sang Yu. Listen, I've barely seen Yu fight. I was just watching some of his fights, his previous fights. Honestly, he looks very, very good. His kickboxing is really good. His grappling is really good. I can't remember what fight it was. I think it was his most recent fight against a guy who's 10-4, Masato Kawana. He came out with a nasty spinning back kick to the body that landed. He actually looks, again, this is very, early. He's 8-0, has only had 8 fights, hasn't fought the best opposition, but it's not horrible opposition. I think he actually, he shows a lot of promise. He has a very good skill set. And then Jeka Saragih is coming off a loss against Weston Wilson. Got subbed by Weston Wilson, slammed into a triangle choke. Jeka Saragih lost to Anshu Jubilee. I think this is a setup fight. I think Yu Sang Yu, I hope I'm not butchering it too bad. I think, the UFC is looking at him as a promotable guy from North Korea or South Korea. I don't know why I said North Korea right there. But he's a promotable guy over who kind of resonates with the Asian market. And honestly, he looks like he has elite striking, even though we haven't really seen it yet. He has decent grappling. He showed it in the previous fight, his second to last fight. He's 31 years old. It's really now or never. Jeka Saragih, trading wins or losses, only wins against Lucas Alexander, who's kind of scrubby. I'm going Ju saying you. I think he gets it done. I think he's going to outstrike him. I think he's going to literally catch him on the chin and probably KO him. You're getting KO'd by Anshul Jubli. I think this is a matchup that is really booked to make you look really good. So I'm going to go Ju saying you. I'm going to say first round KO. I just think he's going to be much crisper on the feet. And I think it was the 2 fights ago. He went to decision and he started getting out grappled a little bit in the 3rd round, but he was still able to scramble up. So he showed a decent gas tank. It's not like Jeka Saragih's known for his gas tank. Jeka Saragih has decent grappling, but he fights kind of crazy, has okay striking, looking for a finish at all times. And I think against a sniper like you, I think he's going to end up getting KO'd. So I'm going to pick Ju saying you. I'm going to pick him to get it done first round KO over Jeka Saragih. Next fight up the card. The one we've all been waiting for, the people's main event. We have Ariane De Silva versus Wang Cong. Wang Cong looked like a very, very interesting contender in the women's flyweight division. And then she got finished by Gabriel Fernandez. But since then, she came back out of win over Bruno Brazil. Now she's fighting Ariane Lipski, De Silva, who's on a 2-fight losing streak, but actually not horrible. I mean, it's Jasmine Jadavicius and Karine Silva. Both of them are kind of top prospects in the flyweight division. Before that, win over Casey O'Neill, win over Melissa Gatto, win over JJ Aldridge. Not the greatest, but I do think Ariane has been improving. But I think that Gabriel Fernandez loss on Cong Wang's record, it's kind of a fluke. You know, it's kind of a fluke. Cong Wang has nasty power. She has finishing ability. She KO'd Victoria Leonardo. But again, Victoria Leonardo is kind of a scrub. And then I just think she has decent striking, decent grappling. She's strong in the clinch. She's one of the few that has power. I think Ariane Lipski is going to try to, dance around the outside and pepper her up with good combinations. I think Cong Wang is going to clip her up with the better shots, the more powerful shots. I could maybe see Cong Wang getting a finish. It seems like women's MMA recently, we've been seeing a lot of KO finishes, or at least above the normal amount. But I'm not going to pick her to get it done. I mean, I just don't see... Lipski's kind of elusive, so I don't see her getting caught and put out. But I see Cong doing more damage and getting the decision over Ariane De Silva. I'm just not picking her coming off 2 losses, even though it's not against the worst competition. Losing to Jasmine Jadavicius and losing to Karine Silva aren't horrible losses. But who she beat, I mean, they're okay wins. Casey O'Neill, she submitted her. Melissa Gatto's okay. She's 17-10, boys. She's 17-10. I just don't see how I can pick Lipski or De Silva to get it done. I'm picking Cong Wang to get it done via decision. Next fight on the card, we have Marquel Mederos versus Mark Choinski, I believe is how you pronounce his name, which I actually believe this fight's going to open up the card. At least that's what Tapology has, which usually is more accurate than the UFC's website, which is crazy. Mederos was supposed to fight last week. He pulled out. He was sick against Balagioki. And then he's getting rescheduled for the week after against a short notice opponent in Mark Choinski, who, to be honest, I went and looked up some of his fights. He's fighting at Kentucky State Fair. He's fighting John Ramirez, an 8-7 guy. He's getting clipped up on the feet before he eventually just wrestles and is able to get the finish. Mederos is not going to be easy to take down. Choinski's going to have to rely on his wrestling in this matchup. I'm literally watching his fights. His fight against John Simon didn't look particularly impressive. I do worry because Mederos is coming in on kind of, not short notice, but he's coming in after pulling out last week being sick. We don't know what kind of condition he is. We don't know where he was at kind of in the weight cut. Maybe he was really nowhere, but we've seen guys try to do these quick turnarounds in a weird way. It's not really, he didn't actually fight, but you get my point. And it ends up costing him. And we've seen guys come in from outside the UFC, just I'm thinking of Nora Salt and Ruzaboyev against Bruno Silva or Bruno Fajeda. I'm thinking of Bruno Fajeda versus Gregory Rodriguez. We've seen it where these guys come in short notice, getting an opportunity and make the most of it. But Mederos is pretty clean. He gets a win over Austin Hubbard, win over Landon Quinones, 2-0 in the UFC, coming off of Dana White's Contender Series, has decent striking. We haven't really seen him out grappled. I think Choinski's fighting super low-level opposition, 8-7. I mean, 3 fights ago, he fought a guy who's 2-8. He fought a guy who's 2-8. So even though I don't like the kind of circumstances around Mederos, I just think Mederos is the way better striker. I think Choinski's going to have to take him down, going to have to use the grappling and wrestling, and I just don't think he's going to be able to. Especially considering he's getting the call on a week's notice. I don't know that he was in a training camp. He's 29 years old, but Mederos isn't particularly old himself. He looked decent in his last 2 fights. I'm going Marquel Mederos to get it done over Mark Choinski. I'm going to say Choinski survives. I'm going to say he maybe makes it to a decision, overperforms, but he clearly loses. He gets busted up. He's bloodied. He's battered. Mederos is the better striker. Choinski's going to be shooting on takedown after takedown and getting stuffed. Maybe win some exchanges kind of in the clinch and push Mederos up against the fence. We've seen that in the Hubbard fight as well as the Quinones fight. But I'm gonna go Mederos to get it done via decision. Next fight on the card, another last-minute thrown-together fight. We have Khaos Williams versus Andreas Gustafsson. Look, stepping in on short notice against Khaos Williams is the worst possible thing that can happen to you. Khaos Williams is kind of criminally underrated. I know he's kind of inconsistent. He's coming off a loss against Bonfim where he got submitted. But before that, KO win over Carlston Harris. Before that, a win over Rolando Bedoya. I think that's when everyone was hyping up Bedoya. Before that, lost to Randy Brown. That's not bad opposition. Randy Brown should be ranked if he's not right now. Where you have Andreas Gustafsson, he's coming off a Dana White's Contender Series. And he's a guy that's 34 years old. And I think the UFC just gave him this opportunity because they're like, you know what? We need somebody to fight Khaos Williams. Let's just throw him in there. I'm not picking this guy on short notice. I'm just not picking it. He's 11-2. He's not super experienced. He's fighting 9-1. Pat, I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. Got to finish there. Before that, he's fighting a guy who's 13-10. 8-4. The guy before that lost to a guy who's 37-10. That was 2 years ago. I'm going Khaos Williams. Khaos Williams has decent boxing, has good power. He's a little wild at times and can be caught in exchanges, but I don't think he's getting taken down. I don't think he's getting outstruck. I don't know for sure because honestly, all I've seen is the Dana White's Contender Series fight from Andreas Gustafsson, but I'm not picking him to get it done on short notice against Khaos Williams, who I kind of think is underrated in the welterweight division, who has finishing ability, has good takedown defense, has good power. I'm picking Khaos Williams to get it done. I'm going to say he just wins via decision. I'm going to say he wins via decision. I think Gustafsson's good enough to hang with him, maybe have some moments, but I think Khaos Williams ultimately wins via decision. Next fight on the card, heavyweight barn burner. We have Serghei Spivac versus Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Let me adjust that a bit. What a banger matchup that is in the heavyweight division. Yeah, can't wait for this one, boys. Can't wait for... You know how I feel watching this card? Especially knowing it's a pay-per-view. I feel like a total cock. Okay? Okay? This is a toss-up. The NPC heavyweights. NPC heavyweight versus NPC heavyweight versus NPC heavyweight. Spivac has decent grappling. His striking is straight up garbage. He's coming off a loss against Jalton Almeida where he got destroyed and finished via TKO on the ground. Before that, he beat Marcin Tybura, submitted him rather easily, very quickly in an armbar in the heavyweight division. Before that, lost to Ciryl Gane. I picked him against... That's my worst pick of all time. I picked him to beat Ciryl Gane. I said Ciryl Gane has no grappling. Horrible pick in retrospect. I just couldn't come off of it. I was like, nah, I'm not picking Ciryl Gane, man. He's got no wrestling. Anyway, beat Derek Lewis, beat Augusto Sakai. Waldo Cortes-Acosta, Salsa Boy, coming off a win over Ryan Spann, who's a scrub. Coming off a win over Robelis Despain, made him look like a total bum. Win over Andre Arlovski. I mean, he's beaten all the... Waldo Cortes-Acosta is going through like an NPC heavyweight run right now. I mean, Lucas Dresky, Andre Arlovski, Robelis Despain, Ryan Spann, garbage coming up from light heavyweight. Can Spivac out-grapple him as I'm stumbling over my words? I don't think so. And I think Acosta's way better on the feet, to be honest. I know Spivac has decent power. I think this is a step up for Acosta. Fighting Ryan Spann, who's the scrubbiest of all scrubbies, coming up from light heavyweight. Robelis Despain, I would double leg him and mug him if I wanted to. Arlovski washed up. Dresky washed up and scrubby as it is. Last loss was against Marcos Rogerio de Lima. That's 2 years ago. Could Spivac kind of expose him in the grappling? Sure. But I'm not going to bank on that. Let me see what people are picking on Tapology. 68% is picking Spivac. That's crazy. I think this is a toss-up heavyweight matchup. I'm not picking Spivac, man. I'm just not picking him. I'm going Waldo Cortes-Acosta. I'm picking this Salsa boy. I'm picking this Salsa boy to get it done. I think Spivac's going to have to really dominate in the grappling, and I think Acosta, even in the Rebels Despain, showing off the grappling a little bit there. Maybe Spivac can take him down and sub him, but I'm not going to bank on that. I'm going to pick, and also Spivac doesn't have good cardio either. His cardio is absolute garbage. He's shown multiple times. So I'm going to pick Acosta to get it done. I'm going to say decision. I'm going to say Salsa Boy gets it done on the feet. Maybe gets taken down, controlled a little bit, but scrambles back up. It's just going to be, honestly, most heavyweight fights is just who's in better shape. So we'll have to see in the first round who's more skilled, and then after that, we'll just see who's in better shape. So I'm going to pick Waldo Cortes-Acosta. I'm going to go against Tapology, the people picking on Tapology. I'm going to pick Waldo Cortes-Acosta to get it done via decision, lands more volume, leg kicks, absorbs leg kicks because he doesn't know how to check a leg kick. But Spivac's striking is garbage, and he's going to slow down. And if he can't initiate the grappling nonstop, he's going to lose this fight. I'm going Acosta to get it done over Spivac. Next fight, we have Azamat Murzakanov versus Brenson Ribeiro. I don't think this is that easy of a pick, especially considering this was shocking to me. You have a 9.5-inch reach advantage for Brenson Ribeiro. That is insane considering I know people look at Azamat's name. They're like, oh, Azamat Murzakanov must be a grappler. He's Russian. He's Russian. He must be a grappler. He's primarily a striker. And he's a pudgy light heavyweight, but he has really good striking. He's pretty elusive on the feet. He's 14-0. He's undefeated. Brenson Ribeiro is 17-7. Coming off a win over a guy whose name I forgot how to pronounce. Kimura him. Before that, beat Caio Machado split decision. Before that, lost to Magomed Gadzhiev Sulov. Is he even in the UFC anymore? Before that, lost to Mingyang Zhang. Not a horrible loss. Got brutally KO'd there. That was a pick'em fight. Could have won either way, really. You know, one of those guys was going to land and KO the other. Murzakanov, I just think he's really nasty on the feet. You know, I know his physique is kind of deceiving, and he actually looks in better shape in this photo. I don't know how old this photo is. But he's actually really fast, and he has a good variety of attacks. I mean, in his last fight, brutalized Alonzo Menenfield. Was able to, I think, he looked kind of gassed. That is kind of a question mark. He looked kind of gassed. But then, boom, landed like a right hand and then an uppercut and then just brutally finished Alonzo Menenfield. Before that, beat Dustin Jacoby, out-kickbox Dustin Jacoby, who's a long-rangey kickboxer. Before that, beat Devin Clark, who's a scrub. Before that, brutally KO'd Tefan Nchukwi with a flying knee. Lands lots of knees, even stepping knees, flying knees. Has good finishing ability. I do worry a little bit because of the size discrepancy, the reach advantage of Ribeiro, and Ribeiro has nasty KO power. But Murzakanov's really nasty on the feet. And I think in this fight, he'll find a way to close the distance. I think he can mix in the grappling against Ribeiro. But Ribeiro has good jiu-jitsu. We saw in his last fight, Kimura win. I'm going to go Murzakanov to KO. I think he's going to catch him with something. He's going to be, closing the distance. He's going to negate the reach advantage of Ribeiro, who's got a 9.5-inch reach advantage, which is absolutely insane. I think he's going to clip him with a big shot and probably just put him away. I'm going to say second round KO for Azamat Murzakanov. He's hard to hit on the feet, and he's got good accuracy, and he's got good striking and good variety of attacks. So I could see him finding anything. Maybe another uppercut like he landed against Alonzo Menenfield. Maybe a step-in knee like he's landed countless times. I just think Ribeiro is not defensively responsible enough. And while he could land and find a kill shot, I just think it's more than likely Azamat Murzakanov is going to find a kill shot and KO him. So I'm going to go second round KO, Azamat Murzakanov. Next fight on the card. What a banger. I think this is the featured prelim. It is. We have Bruno Silva versus Joshua Van. I know everyone is probably picking Joshua Van, and I'm picking Joshua Van as well. Let me look. 95% picking Joshua Van on Tapology. I know that's going to be the hot pick. Bruno Silva can totally win this fight. He's a very good, gritty fighter with decent finishing ability and decent striking. He lost his last fight against Manel Kopp. Manel Kopp cheated in that fight. Now, granted, Bruno Silva had cheated before that, but it was a groin shot. It wasn't even a real finish. So he would have went to decision with Manel Kopp. Before that, beat Cody Durden. Cody Durden's a decent flyweight. You know, you look at Joshua Van, he lost to Charles Johnson about a year ago, but since then, win over Edgar Chairez, win over Cody Durden himself, win over Ray Saruya. I just think Joshua Van's boxing is way better. And I think Charles Johnson kind of had that funky style where he could find shots, and he's just Charles Johnson's just very wonky on the feet and a bit underrated. And I think that's how Joshua Van, being young, he's only 23 years old, just kind of couldn't get a read on him and eventually got clipped and finished. But I think that's a bit of an aberration. I think Joshua Van is a very good prospect at flyweight. And while Bruno Silva is very, very good, I just don't think he has the striking. And he's undersized, honestly. He's undersized for flyweight. I just don't think... I think that he's not going to grapple nonstop. Joshua Van has good takedown defense, and Joshua Van nonstop rips to the body. I think it was against Felipe Bunes, or maybe it was even a fight before that, man. He was really ripping to the body after he lost the first round. Joshua Van's a bit of a slow starter, but, man, once he gets going, his boxing looks incredible, and I just think Bruno Silva is going to box with him. Might try to shoot a takedown or two, but Joshua Van's going to be able to stuff those takedowns. It's not like Bruno Silva's an unbelievable grappler. He was down against Cody Durden before he got the finish. I picked him in that fight, matter of fact. I just think it's going to be primarily standing, and I think Joshua Van, I think he's a guy who's actually going to be a flyweight contender. Plus, look at the age gap. This is crazy. 35 years old Bruno Silva versus 23-year-old Joshua Van. About the same reach, about the same height. Joshua Van, the far better striker. I think Bruno Silva's going to have to catch him with a big shot and put him away. But it's not like Joshua Van is chinny. I know he got finished by Charles Johnson. I don't think Bruno Silva has that type of power to put him away. He's a small guy, even for flyweight. If there was a 115 weight class, Bruno Silva would be in that weight class. So I see this being contested primarily on the feet. I see Joshua Van touching him up. I'm going to pick Van to get it done via decision. Bruno Silva's super tough, hard to put away. Manel Kape shouldn't even been able to finish him, but it was a groin shot and horrible refereeing. So I'm going to pick Joshua Van to get it done. Probably a 30-27 boxing masterclass performance, ripping up the body, landing on the feet, landing on the chin of Bruno Silva, busting him up. Bruno Silva kind of waning forward and trying to land big shots, but majority of them, Joshua Van using his head movement and being elusive. And I think Joshua Van will win a very clear decision over Bruno Silva. Next fight on the card, we have the main card opener of this illustrious pay-per-view. We have Vicente Luque versus Dana White privileged Kevin Holland. Man, this is a tough pick, boys. This is really a tough pick. I've been struggling with this one. Vicente Luque or Kevin Holland. Bummy ass Kevin Holland versus the dead corpse of Vicente Luque. I know I said I was never picking Kevin Holland again. I really don't want to pick Kevin Holland. I picked Gunnar Nelson to beat him. He struggled in that fight a bit, but he was just able to hurt Gunnar Nelson. Otherwise, he would have lost the decision if he didn't hurt him. I think at the end of the first round, I didn't go back and rewatch it. Before that, Rainer De Ritter made him his little bitch like he did Bo Nickel. Before that, lost to Roman Dolidze, quit there. Beat Michael Olszewski, but shouldn't even been stopped there. Lost to Michael Venom Page. Man, I don't think Luque's been the same since Jeff Neal busted up his brain 2.5 years ago or 3 years ago now. He got a win over Dos Anjos where he out-grappled him the entire time, looked gun-shy. Lost to Joaquin Buckley where he looked like he literally just quit like Bo Nickel did against Rainer De Ritter. And then recently beat Temba Garimbo, who's really not that good. But he was able to finish him. I think Luque is still decently skilled. I'm going to pick Kevin Holland. It pains me to do it, but I don't pick based on who I like. I'm just not convinced that Vicente Luque of old is back. He's 33 years old. Kevin Holland, 5-inch reach advantage, 4-inch height advantage, long rangy. Luque doesn't really have the grappling to dominate him, I don't think. Luque has decent grappling, used it against Dos Anjos. But I don't think Luque is a guy that's going to go out there and just spam takedowns against Kevin Holland. If he does, he could win. But Kevin Holland has decent scrambles, and I feel like Luque is one of those guys where even if he's out grappling Kevin Holland, he could get KO'd like Jacare Souza. While like Kevin Holland's like throwing hammer fists from the bottom or catches him with an up kick and KOs him. So I'm going to pick Kevin Holland to get it done. But how does he beat? I'm going to pick him to KO. I'm going to say he KOs Vicente Luque. I'm going to say third round KO. It pains me to say it. I just see Luque getting touched up a bit with long, rangy shots. I hope I'm wrong on this fight pick because Kevin Holland, man, why is he keeping on main cards? Well, pay-per-views nonetheless, opening up the main card here. I just see him touching Vicente Luque up. I could see Luque quitting again like he did against Joaquin Buckley. I just don't think his heart's in it. I think he's just showing up for paychecks. Similar to Kevin Holland. But he doesn't have the grappling in his back pocket. Like, I think Luque's jiu-jitsu may be a little bit better than Kevin Holland, but Kevin Holland has decent jiu-jitsu as well, and he subbed Michael Chiesa. I picked that fight perfectly, by the way. But I'm going to go Kevin Holland, third round TKO. Longer, rangier, fresher, hasn't taken the amount of damage that Vicente Luque has over the course of his career, and I think he gets it done. I just think Luque will be okay, decently competitive, and I don't think he's a total scrub, but I just think once he starts taking damage, I just think he's going to pack it in. I don't think one win over Temba Garimbo is going to change that. So I think Kevin Holland will clip him with a good shot, and then it'll never be the same from then on out. I'm picking Kevin Holland to finish him via third round TKO. Next fight on the card. This may be the people's main event here. We have Mario Bautista versus the silhouette of Patchy Mix. They couldn't even get this dude a picture. They couldn't even get the Bellator champion a picture. That is crazy. This is a tough fight. If you didn't watch Bellator, Patchy Mix is actually really solid. He's 20-1 overall. They have 0-0. I don't know if that's supposed to be UFC record or what. He's 20-1 overall. Hasn't lost in years. Coming off a win where he didn't look the best against Magomedov, but he has a win over him previously. Sub Sergio Pettis. KO'd Rafion Stotts with that brutal knee. He's kind of coming in on short notice. It was supposed to be Chito Vera. I don't know what kind of shape he's in. I'm assuming he's in good shape. He took this fight. Mario Bautista coming off that win over Jose Aldo where people were crying about it because he grappled in the third round, even though he looked good before that. I'm a believer in Mario Bautista. And he's not an easy guy to hold down. I remember when people thought Damon Blackshear was going to out-grapple him. Damon Blackshear was not able to out-grapple him and got outstruck. Mario Bautista, I think, is the dark horse of the bantamweight division. You guys ready to hear some crazy shit? I've said this on a couple live streams. I think Mario Bautista could be the only guy that can beat Merab currently in the bantamweight division unless Merab just gets old overnight. But we'll talk about Merab in the main event in a little bit. I'm picking Mario Bautista. I think this is a coin flip. I think it could go either way. I just don't think Patchy Mix's striking is all that good. And I think Mario Bautista, even though he was scheduled to take on Marlon Chito Vera, which I think is a much easier matchup than Patchy Mix, Patchy Mix likes to take you down and backpack you. You know, I would love to see, but it's never going to happen, I guess, because he's up a weight class now. Patchy Mix versus Aljo, I would love to see at some point. They both like to take you down and backpack you. I think Mario Bautista is too scrappy for that. And people shit on him for grappling against Jose Aldo in the third round. He was out striking Jose Aldo in the first two rounds and walking him down a bit and landing good combinations. And I know Patchy Mix is on a long win streak, and I think he's fought decent opposition. But I'm looking at Mario Bautista beating Jose Aldo, who's actually still pretty decent at the time he beat him, and still even decent now that he retired. Beat Ricky Simone, not the greatest fighter. Beat Damon Blackshear, I think is a bit underrated. Other wins aren't that great. I think he beats Patchy Mix. I think Patchy Mix is really going to have to win some scrambles off some takedown attempts, get in an advantageous position and kind of stall out the clock because I don't think he's subbing Mario Bautista either. It's been years since Mario Bautista lost, and I don't think any of those. Let me actually see if I can check real quick. I don't think I think he's got subbed one time maybe. I want to say it's one time against Corey Sandhagen if I'm not mistaken. He got subbed one time by Corey Sandhagen back in 2019. I think he shored up that hole. He's gotten plenty of subs himself. I mean, he subbed Guido Canetti, subbed Benito Lopez, subbed Brian Kelleher. Now, I get it. Those guys aren't anywhere on the level of Patchy Mix. But, I mean, that's 6 submission wins throughout his career, 3 TKOs, 9 finishes overall. People call him boring because he has one fight where he grapples against Jose Aldo. Patchy Mix may win. I think it's going to be a close competitive fight that could go either way. But I think Patchy Mix is going to be able to scramble out of the grappling. Patchy Mix is never really going to be able to cement a position. And I think Bautista will win on the feet. And I think once he gets confident, once he gets the confidence that he can stuff the takedowns or scramble out of bad positions, I think he'll start letting his hands go. And I think he'll outstrike Patchy Mix. Now, maybe Patchy Mix gets around, gets his back, controls him, early. And maybe Mario Bautista drops around. I could see that. I could even see like around Patchy Mix clearly gets it. Bautista clearly gets around. It comes down to one round. and maybe Mix gets a little bit of grappling going, and Bautista lands a couple good shots on the feet, and it could be one of those controversial scorecards where a lot of people have it 29-28 either way. But I'm banking on Mario Bautista to get it done. I think he's more well-rounded. I think he's the better striker. Neither guy has like crazy finishing ability on the feet. I mean, Mix has had some decent finishes like that Rafion Stotts finish. But I think if Patchy Mix gets it done, it'll be like a rear naked choke. I don't think he's finishing Mario Bautista. I'm picking Mario Bautista to get it done. I'm going to say a very razor close split decision win for Mario Bautista, 29-28, in a fight that I'm actually really looking forward to on this card. Next fight up the card, the featured fight of the night, we have Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer, who doesn't like the Mexicans, okay? This fight was booked a while ago. Joe Pyfer pulled out because, I don't know, he had some diarrhea or something. I don't know what was up his ass. I honestly would love if Kelvin Gastelum somehow went out there and slept Joe Pyfer. But Kelvin Gastelum, he doesn't belong at middleweight. Honestly, Kelvin Gastelum is a guy who probably should be fighting at lightweight, let alone middleweight. He should definitely be at welterweight over middleweight. But I think Joe Pyfer is a guy who's massive for the weight class, who has crazy KO power. Kelvin Gastelum isn't easy to finish, especially via TKO. He got subbed by Sean Brady, got out-grappled by Sean Brady. Since then, he got a win over Daniel Rodriguez, where he looked like he had regressed quite a bit. Got a win over Chris Curtis, very competitive fight. Lost to Jarrett Cannonier, lost to Robert Whitaker. No shame in those two losses. He's getting up there in age, and he's taken a lot of damage over the course of his career. I think previously I picked Pyfer to get it done via decision. I would love for Kelvin Gastelum to go out there and win and expose Joe Pyfer again, because he already got exposed against Jack Hermanson. But Joe Pyfer since then brutally KO'd Marc-Andre Barriault, put him in the doggy style position. Lost to Jack Hermanson, where he really just got outboxed and kind of gassed out. But he had won early rounds. It's not like he got completely exposed. Before that, he's beaten okay guys like Gerald Meerschaert and Abdul Razak Al Hassan. I just think Kelvin Gastelum's too pudgy for the weight class. And I think he's getting up there in age. He's slowing down. He's regressing. He can't take shots like he used to. And Joe Pyfer hits very, very hard. So I'm gonna pick body bags. Joe Pyfer. Beat Joe Pyfer with his new hair plugs. Maybe I need to head over to where he's getting his hair at, okay? I know, insert hairline joke. I know I got a beautiful hairline here. Oh, what did I just do? All right, here we go. Let me go back to this. I'm picking Joe Pyfer to get it done. It's just a matter of how does he win? Does he win via KO? Does he win via decision? Because again, I think it was first two rounds he won against Jack Hermanson, Joe Pyfer did. So I could see him just outstriking Kelvin Gastelum getting dropped a couple times, but surviving. Maybe Pyfer gassing out in the third, and it gets a little bit like, oh, can Kelvin Gastelum capitalize on this? But I'm picking Joe Pyfer to get it done. I'm going to pick him to finish him. I'm going to say second round KO for Pyfer. I just think he's long, he's rangy, he's much bigger than Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin Gastelum's time in the UFC is probably coming to an end in the next year or so, if I had to guess. And I just think Joe Pyfer hits too hard. We got a blown up lightweight versus I don't want to say a weight bully, but a guy who probably could fight at light heavyweight in Joe Pyfer, who has nuclear power in his hands. So I'm going to pick Joe Pyfer to get it done. I think Kelvin Gastelum, when is his strategy to ever grapple? You don't ever see it. And even if he did, I don't think he's taking Joe Pyfer down. Even if he had the better wrestling, Joe Pyfer's just too big, too strong. So I think it's going to be a fight where it's primarily striking. Joe Pyfer's going to land the cleaner shots, probably drop Kelvin Gastelum a couple times, win a decision that way, or potentially find the finish. I think Kelvin Gastelum, it's time that his chin is finally cracked. So I'm going to pick Joe Pyfer second round KO. Catches him with a big punch. Doesn't put him out cold, but hurts him badly enough, swarms him, and the referee jumps in because of the way he goes down. That's what I'm picking. Joe Pyfer, mid-second round KO. Next fight on the card, the co-main events. We have Julianna Peña versus Kayla Harrison for the women's bantamweight title, the fight we're all looking forward to. I'm going to be honest, and maybe you guys are going to call me crazy. I'm looking forward to this fight more than I'm looking forward to the main event. Maybe that's a hot take. I know Julianna Peña's kind of scrubby, barely beat Raquel Pennington. Shout out. We got two lesbians on stage. Ain't no homophobia around here. If you know, you know. But look, Julianna Peña, she literally gets by on her Dricus du Plessis-esque heart, you know. she's able just to kind of will her way to victory. She barely squeaked out a win over Pennington. A lot of people thought it was a robbery. I thought it could have went either way. She got absolutely starched by Amanda Nunes in the fight before that. I know it went to decision, but Nunes beat her ass for 5 rounds. She got a fluke win over Nunes before that, where Nunes didn't take her seriously or bet against herself. Before that, beat Sarah McMahon and got subbed by Jareen Durandamine. Now, that was a while ago. Julianna Peña has been kind of inactive. You have Kayla Harrison, where I'm worried if she's going to make weight. I didn't think she would make weight for her last 2 fights. She beat Holly Holm, submitted her, was impressive there. Against Ketlin Vieira, she looked human, you know, and I know she has that loss against Larissa Pacheco, I think is how you pronounce it. But I don't think Julianna Peña is skilled enough to expose Harrison. You know, maybe, I guess, if it takes her to the later rounds, Harrison could gas out, especially considering she has that crazy weight cut. But Julianna Peña is getting subbed by Jareen Durandamine. I don't think she's improved that much since then. Her striking is god-awful. I mean, her striking looks horrific. I mean, it literally looks like she has muscular dystrophy, to be honest, the way she strikes. And it's never, I mean, imagine being Julianna Peña's striking coach. It looks horrific. The way, you guys know the exchange I'm talking about against Amanda Nunes in the rematch where she's just rushing forward, throwing the most uncoordinated shots, and Nunes just steps back and plucks her. Now, I know Harrison isn't the best striker. She's primarily, you know, a judo, wrestling, you know, grappling heavy fighter, which I think is what she's going to implement in this fight. But it's not like Julianna Peña is a massive threat on the feet. The only way Julianna Peña wins this fight is if Kayla Harrison gasses from the weight cut, which I'm already worried Kayla Harrison's going to miss weight, and then somehow Julianna Peña is just not going to take the fight. That's just the way these cards are going nowadays, especially with this mediocre pay-per-view. But to sum it all up, I don't even know if I said my pick yet. I'm going Kayla Harrison to get it done. I think she can out-grapple Julianna Peña. I think she can out-muscle Julianna Peña. And I think she's going to beat her up on the ground. She has good ground and pound, nasty elbows. She's the much bigger fighter. As long as the weight cut isn't a mega issue, I think Kayla Harrison wins this fight. And we know Amanda Nunes is going to come back and fight Kayla Harrison. That's a big fight. I favor Nunes to win that as long as she hasn't regressed in her retirement. But I just see Julianna Peña rushing forward with her sloppy Juliana Miller school of striking, basically. And I just don't think that's enough to get it done. I mean, it's shit. It hasn't improved. I mean, who's watching her hit the heavy bag and like, yeah, girl, you're really killing it. She hasn't improved in years. You know, I know Kayla Harrison is 34 years old, but Peña's 35, almost 36. So I just don't see a narrative where you can write a prediction where Julianna Peña wins outside of Kayla Harrison gassing out because of a bad weight cut. And after 2 rounds of winning 2 rounds, she's too exhausted, and Julianna Peña is still there and getting in her face and walking her down. I just don't think it's going to happen. I mean, we've seen Nunes brutally out-grapple her and out-strike her. Raquel Pennington, she got by the skin of her teeth. Kayla Harrison would wreck Raquel Pennington. So I'm picking Kayla Harrison to get it done. I think Julianna Peña is tough enough where she'll survive a bit. But I think come the 3rd round, I think Harrison will be busting her up with elbows and probably find a submission. So I am going to pick Kayla Harrison 3rd round rear naked choke. Maybe 2nd round. I'll say 2nd or 3rd round rear naked choke, but I'm going to lock in 3rd round. That's what I'm picking. I just think Peña's striking's ass. Her grappling's okay, but she's not out-grappling Kayla Harrison, and her jiu-jitsu isn't amazing where she's going to find a sub. I just don't see a path to victory for Peña, again, outside of the one scenario I highlighted. It almost sounds like the narrative people are writing for DDP versus Khamzat Chimaev. I'm going Kayla Harrison to become the new women's bantamweight champion. Next fight on the card, we have the main event that everyone desperately wanted and we were asking the UFC for. We have Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley 2 for the bantamweight title. Listen, I think this should be a blowout, to be quite honest. But I'm not going to confidently say it's going to be a blowout for Merab. Merab is dumb as a box of rocks. And I'm convinced the UFC is telling these guys they must strike more. I'm convinced they're saying, look, we got a new TV deal. You need to make the fight more exciting. We'll give you a backdoor bonus. You know, we want you to strike more. And Merab, while I believe he's the GOAT at bantamweight, he's coming off a win over Umar Nurmagomedov in a razor-close fight, even though people thought it was not razor-close. It really was razor-close. It came down to 1 round, okay? And what's crazy about that fight, I remember watching it in real time and watching Merab taunt. And I was thinking, man, this could backfire on him. This could really backfire on him. and he could end up losing this decision because he's too busy taunting, and then he's really going to be kicking himself. And I think we could see something similar against Sean O'Malley. I think Merab, the way he's hyping up O'Malley, he's like, O'Malley's going to stuff all my takedowns, and I'm going to strike with O'Malley and test my striking. O'Malley is a sniper. While he is an industry plant, he is a sniper. And while he doesn't deserve this title shot, that doesn't mean he can't win. It's crazy the UFC's even giving him a title shot right now. Talk about industry plant. I know nobody is really getting skipped over. But in what world does O'Malley deserve a title shot? He literally got blown out. He landed one teep kick in the 5th round, and he took a participation trophy off of that. People were acting like Merab was almost finished. That's not even close. They cheated up a storm. It just shows me where their mental confidence is. They made a bunch of excuses afterwards. O'Malley's like, man, I'm spending my time off social media, and I'm hanging out with my family, and I'm not jerking it anymore, so I'm going to beat Merab. I'm going Merab to get it done. I think Merab blows him out again, probably. You know what? Actually, no, I'm not. I think Merab is going to find a way to make it close. And I could see a Sean O'Malley robbery win where Merab probably should win, but he gets a little overconfident, like kind of taunting a bit and striking a little bit too much on the feet. And it's going to be a closer fight. But I think Merab is clearly going to be the better fighter. But he could fumble it against O'Malley. But I'm not going to pick that. I'm not going to say, I mean, you could. I see it coming a mile away, almost Merab like throwing the fight. And I know that sounds crazy in a breakdown, but I have to say it because I really feel like Merab could throw the fight by mistake. And then he's not getting the trilogy, which is hilarious because he has a GOAT 135 resume. He's on like a 12 or 13 fight win streak. And he's defended the title against a legit competitor in Umar Nurmagomedov. And if he were to somehow lose this fight, raise a close decision, he's not getting a trilogy with O'Malley. It's not happening. But I just think Merab is the better grappler. I think he has the better cardio. I think his chin has shown time and time again, even if he gets cracked and hurt a little bit, like he did against Marlon Moraes or against Henry Cejudo, he finds a way to survive. O'Malley wasn't even, suspecting. Him and Tim Welch weren't even expecting double leg takedowns. Jan beat O'Malley and out-grappled him and took him down with ease. I think the Aljamain Sterling fight was a bit of a fluke, and that's his only good win on his entire resume. That's literally O'Malley's only good win. Piotr Jan beat him 30-27. It's clear as day. So I just can't pick O'Malley to win. But if Merab plays around too much, and Merab tries to taunt, he's kissing my buddy's back, he's kissing my buddy's neck, and he's just taunting on the feet, I could see O'Malley basically trying to crack the body over and over and over again. And I could see, one of those shots going in and hurting Merab to the body again. And maybe it's a round that Merab needed because he's been fucking around the entire fight. And there were some other close rounds. And now he got hurt a little bit. And now he loses 3-2. But I can't bet on that. I'm picking Merab to out-grapple him. I'm picking Merab. I think Merab's grappling will set up the striking. I think O'Malley, while maybe he was injured and maybe that's a bit of an excuse that he can use, I just don't. He sat out. He sat out for 9 months after losing to Merab. And now he's coming back, and what's he going to change? He even thinks he won the first fight, which is completely delusional. It's embarrassing. Unless Merab has fallen off a cliff, I think he gets it done. I'm going to pick Merab via decision. Merab doesn't have much finishing ability. I hope we get to see Tim Welch's patented corner advice again. Just breathe, Shug. You're a warrior, Shug. You're going to get through this, Shug. It's almost over, Shug. He was begging him. It's almost over. Don't quit, Shug. Imagine calling another grown man Shug. But basically, to sum up my analysis of this main event, unless Merab basically throws the fight, Merab should win this fight. And that was my analysis kind of going into the first fight. I didn't really think that Merab would throw a fight, but my analysis was Merab easily ragdolls him and wins. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe Merab does get tagged a bit and he's kind of dumb and this or that. And then I flipped my pick to Sean O'Malley. But yeah, I think Merab wins. I'm not going to make the mistake of picking O'Malley again. I'm just not. I fell for that the first time. I'm not letting it happen. I don't think Sean O'Malley is that good overall. I think he's a very, very good striker who got a fluke win over Aljo. Aljo beats him 9 times out of 10. And I know that sounds crazy, but he does. And I don't know where O'Malley goes from here if he loses. So O'Malley must win. But I'm telling you, Merab can't mess around too much. He can taunt a little bit. But don't mess around in close rounds, because if you fumble this fight away, they're not giving you a trilogy. Which would be funny, because Merab is going to lose his mind if he loses this fight, razor close, and then doesn't get the trilogy. But you just look back at O'Malley's fights, man. Okay, he beat Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera isn't that good. It was a gifted title defense. The Aljamain Sterling fight, they set Aljo up for failure. And then also it was an early stoppage. Before that, Petr Yan, brutal robbery. When does he have a good win? He got finished by Marlon Chitavera back in 2020, where he had his legs brutally chopped, and then he was shucked to the ground, and then brutally KO'd with ground and pound elbows before he was stretchered out of the cage with no serious injuries. O'Malley is mentally weak. Tim Welch will go down in history as an Edmund Tarverdyan type Ronda Rousey coach. And even though I think Merab could be a little bit stupid and fumble this one, I think he still does win. And also Merab has a good coach in John Wood. I think John Wood puts together really good game plans. In the first fight, Merab didn't pressure early, remember? And it threw O'Malley off a bit. So I think O'Malley's going to try to, cheat his way to a victory like he did in the first fight. They tried so many dirty techniques. And when Merab's distracted by Tim Welch, O'Malley all of a sudden wanted to be aggressive. When Herb Dean breaks him because Merab's kissing his back, he tries to cheap shot him and get a win. They were so desperate for a win. It's actually embarrassing. But I think Merab still gets it done. I'm picking Merab to defend the bantamweight title against Sean O'Malley in the rematch. And I guess then, I don't know. I would like to see the Petr Yan rematch, honestly. If Petr Yan beats Marcus McGee, I would love to see Merab versus Yan too. Yan is far more deserving right now than Sean O'Malley. But I also wouldn't mind seeing O'Malley Yan too. Let's right that wrong of that O'Malley brutal robbery back at, I believe, UFC 280. So I'm going Merab to get it done in the main event. Overall, guys, I got to be honest, this card isn't that great. Mid-tier pay-per-view. I'll be live streaming the card if you care to join me in case something crazy happens. Do me a favor, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. I know I've been missing a little bit recently, but hopefully I'm back to pumping out daily content for you boys, daily pleasure for you boys. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.